Have you ever really stopped to wonder what you're made of? I mean, not in some deep philosophical way, but what are the actual fundamental ingredients? Well, today, we're cracking open the Cosmic Cookbook to check out the recipe that creates you, me, and pretty much every living thing on this planet. It's going to be fascinating.
So, let's just imagine for a second that we're going to build a living thing from scratch. What do we absolutely have to have? That's the big question for today. We're going to break down the 4 essential ingredient groups that form the foundation for, well, all of biology as we know it.
Okay, so our first ingredient isn't so much an ingredient as it is the kitchen itself. I'm talking about water. It's not just something you drink. It's the stage, it's the solvent, it's the matrix where all the chemistry of life gets to happen. You know, life started in water and stayed there for about 3.5 billion years. It's that important.
And get a load of this number. Your very own cells, right now, are somewhere between 70 and 95% water. That is just staggering. And it's no accident. This massive abundance tells you just how critical its role is. Without water, all the other ingredients, they just can't do their thing. You know, what's really wild is how water works, and it's all thanks to its polarity. Because of these things called hydrogen bonds, water molecules just love to cling to each other. We call that cohesion. It's why water beads up and creates surface tension. But they also love sticking to other stuff. That's adhesion. And those two forces working together, that's how a giant redwood tree can defy gravity and pull water all the way from its roots to its very top leaves. It's amazing. And here's one of water's most famous and life-saving quirks. When water freezes, those hydrogen bonds lock into this beautiful, stable crystal lattice. But here's the kicker. That lattice actually holds the molecules farther apart than when they're flowing around as a liquid. So what does that mean? It means ice is less dense than liquid water. It floats. And that simple fact is what insulates lakes and oceans, preventing them from freezing solid and allowing life to survive all winter long down below.
All right, next up on our ingredient list is the ultimate Lego brick of life. Carbon. If water is the kitchen where everything happens, carbon is the material we use to build just about everything inside that kitchen.
So what's the big deal with carbon? Why is it so special? Well, it all boils down to this one number, 4. Carbon has 4 electrons in its outer shell, which means it can form 4 incredibly strong, stable bonds with all sorts of other atoms, including itself. And that right there is the secret to its unbelievable versatility.
This awesome bonding power allows carbon to build the most incredible molecular skeletons. As you can see, it can form these long, straight chains. It can create complicated branch chains. It can even form stable rings. This flexibility is what allows for the millions and millions of different organic molecules that life absolutely depends on. So how does life actually use carbon to build these big, complex things? Well, it's got this really elegant system using 2 simple opposite reactions. To build a long chain called a polymer, it performs what's called dehydration synthesis. It just removes the water molecule to link 2 smaller units together. And then, to break that chain back down, to get energy, it does the exact opposite. It adds a water molecule to split the bond. We call that hydrolysis. It's a beautifully simple system of construction and deconstruction.
Okay, so we've got our kitchen and we've got our building blocks. Now it is time for the main courses, the big molecules that provide all the energy and all the structure for life.
And first up, we've got carbohydrates. Now you should think of these as the body's go-to source for quick, easy-to-access energy. When you need a fast fuel up, your body turns straight to carbs. Simple as that. The basic building block of any carbohydrate is called a monosaccharide, which is really just a fancy way of saying a single sugar molecule. And the most famous one of all is glucose. This little guy right here, this is the primary fuel that powers pretty much all of our cells. But carbs are more than just a quick snack for your cells. They can be linked together to store energy for later on. That's what starch is in plants or glycogen in our own muscles. And they can even form incredibly tough structures, like the cellulose that makes up the sturdy cell walls of plants. So if carbs are the quick fuel, our next ingredient, lipids, are the body's long-term battery pack. We're talking about fats, oils, waxes, the whole group. They're also essential for creating barriers, because as we all know, oil and water, they just don't mix. Now, you've definitely heard about saturated and unsaturated fats. The difference between them is actually all in the shape of their carbon chains. Saturated fats have these nice straight chains that can pack together really tightly. That's why they're solid at room temperature, like butter. But unsaturated fats have kinks or bends in their chains, so they can't pack together as neatly. That's why they're liquid, like olive oil. And lipids do way more than just store energy. Their jobs are incredibly diverse. Special lipids called phospholipids form the actual membranes around all of our cells. Waxes create waterproof barriers on things like leaves. And some lipids, like steroid hormones, act as critical messengers, carrying signals all throughout the body.
Let's move on to our final two main courses. These are the molecules of action and information, the ones that are responsible for doing all the work and for storing the instructions on how to do it.
Welcome to the world of proteins. These are, without a doubt, the workhorses of the cell. Seriously, if there's a job that needs to be done inside a living thing, you can bet there's a protein doing it. They're the most diverse and versatile molecules in our entire recipe.
The building block for a protein is called an amino acid, and here's where the magic really happens. There are 20 different kinds of them. By arranging these 20 little building blocks in different orders and different lengths, life can create a practically infinite variety of proteins, each with its own unique shape and its own specific job.
And what kind of jobs are we talking about? Well, some proteins are enzymes that speed up chemical reactions. Others provide structure, like the collagen in your skin or the keratin in your hair. Some transport things around, like hemoglobin carrying oxygen in your blood. And they even make movement happen, powering the muscles in your body.
Now, a protein's job is determined entirely by its 3D shape, which is built up in 4 incredible levels. It all starts with the primary sequence, just the order of the amino acids. Then, that chain starts to coil and fold into little local shapes. After that, those shapes all interact and fold the entire molecule up into a complex 3D structure. And for some proteins, they even combine multiple chains to form the finished machine. It is an absolute masterpiece of molecular origami.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important ingredient, the nucleic acids. These molecules are the master blueprints. They're the information storage system that holds the entire recipe for building and running a whole organism.
You've got 2 main types. First, there's DNA. It's the master copy, a super stable double helix that stores the full genetic code for the long term. Then you have RNA. It's more of a working copy, a single strand that carries a specific set of instructions from the DNA blueprint out to the machinery that actually builds the proteins. So think of it this way. DNA is the giant master cookbook in the library, and RNA is the single recipe card you bring with you into the kitchen.
So there you have it, the essential ingredients: water, carbon, and the 4 major macromolecules that come together to create the incredible complexity of life. What's truly mind-bending is that experiments have shown that some of these basic building blocks can actually form all by themselves under conditions like those on the early Earth, which leaves us with a pretty profound question. If the universe provides all the right ingredients, could life's recipe, in a way, write itself? Something to think about.